Yes, we will try that, do that. Let me just tell you, or you tell me actually, if it's okay or not. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here in Hungary at BalatonPark circuit, the brand new racetrack, which is the opening venue for the 2024 ESETCup series, and together with that also the Central European Formula 4 Championship. Cars already lined up on the starting grid, waving us out into the race. And we had a beautiful, wonderful opening race yesterday. Two more coming up today. trio of races for the 2024 season, and this is Andrea Kostic, one of the 5 of Jense Motorsport cars on the starting grid, but it is going to be his teammate Ethan Isher who scored victory in yesterday's race number 1 and will sit on pole position for the race number 2 as well. Cars already lined up on the starting grid awaiting the beginning of the formation lap. A beautiful weekend here in Hungary. After a couple of weeks of cold weather, the sun is out, the temperatures are rising, and it is a beautiful atmosphere to welcome the new season in. My name is Pavel Fabry and I'm your commentator for the weekend as usual. The boys and girls and their machines and their engineers sat on the grid. We've got a trio of girls on the grid as well, which is great to see, and generally the entire grid expanding. We started out, you may remember, in Hungary at the Hungaroring 2 years back, well, not even 2 years back, with 6 cars, but now it is a 14-strong field, and Ethan Isher sat on pole position. Alongside him on the front row, Oscar Wirtz, very well-known name to you if you know anything about Formula 1, of course, son of the former Formula 1 driver Alex Wirtz. Row number 2, Shimo Zhang and Kirill Kutskov. Shimo Zhang had a poor start to yesterday's race, but made up for it during the race and climbed his way up back to the podium. Kirill Kutskov alongside. In P5 it is Miroslav Mikeš, and alongside him Andrea Kostic. Max Karhan in one of the other Jense Motorsport cars, 7th on the grid, alongside Jonathan Corarella. Marek Michik and Michel Jandova completing the top 10 here in Hungary. Luka Savu 11th, Michalina Sabaj in 12th, Franciszek Halatnik in 13th, and Cornelia Olkutska running into trouble yesterday, therefore starting last to race number 2. But there is still all to play for, all to fight for. 25-minute race coming up now, and another one, as I mentioned, also later on during today's program. We've got definitely an interesting lineup prepared for you. We've just had the second GT qualifying for the second sprint of the weekend, and now we are about to start the first race of the weekend here. Well, let's say not of the weekend, but of the Sunday's program. TCR coming up next, after that the Clio Cup, Swift Cup, and after a short lunch break, back with more racing, GTs, Formula 4 again, and then Renault Twingo Cup to finish us off. So an incredibly packed program for your Sunday. Thank you very much for watching and being with us, and we really hope that we enjoy the entire program together. Cars already on the formation lap. This is the second sector of the track as we drive past the main grandstand. Heavy braking into turn 5. A great overtaking spot after the first sector, and then if it does or doesn't work out, the fights usually continue through this sweeping right-hander into the following chicane and the hairpin. Place of many dramatic moments from yesterday. There's the chicane towards the back, where the track very nearly meets the motorway, and then we turn around through the hairpin and back we go towards the start and finish straight through the tight and twisty sector 3. Hard and heavy braking here into one of the chicanes. This is an interesting one because actually, while you're going through the sweeping left-hander, the outside is then going to become the inside into the chicane, but then it's switching back again. And it's been interesting to see all through the weekend so far the tactics that drivers have tried, inside, outside. There is no exact preference with respect to how the fights then pan out a little later on through these quick and sharp bends and back onto the starting grid. Ethan Isher locking up a tiny little bit. He'll be hoping that that won't affect his performance too much. He had to fend off a big pressure from Oscar Wirtz in yesterday's race, which he did, but it was continuous and was on all through the race. Oscar Wirtz tried to pile that on. They were never separated more than 1 second by 1 second. But in the end, Ethan Isher, last year's champion, held his nerves beautifully and scored the opening victory of 2024. Cars lining up also in the back rows of the grid. The green flag is out, and that means that everything is ready for the F1 style starting procedure. The red lights are on, and we are racing in Balaton. One of the cars stalled in the back of the grid, or two of them actually do. Ethan Isher from pole. And there's a massive lock-up from Shimo Zhang. Oscar Wirtz therefore holding on to second. And it's Kirill Kutskov trying to make his way up the order around the outside. Miroslav Mikeš then fighting with one of the other Jensers. That would be Andrea Kostic from 6. Max Karhan also trying to follow suit and make up some places. And we are through the first sector. Two cars stalling on the grid. I believe those would have been Michalina Sabaj and probably either Michelle Yandova or Kornelia Olkucka on the left-hand side of the grid from the front view. Internal team battle within the two Jensers, and Miroslav Mikeš together with them. Hard on the brakes, into the chicane they go. Wonderful fight between the two. Mikeš, however, finding himself now on the outside, having to back off a tiny little bit to avoid contact. Simply no space left for him on the road through the process. Never mind that, he has to back off and try once again. Now we go towards the back, and there's what I've just been talking about. Attempt first round the outside, which is then becoming the inside. Michelle Yandova in the fight there. Franciszek Halatnik also making a couple of places. Ethan Isher leading us out at the end of the opening lap. There's one of the back markers rejoining. Ooh, and we've got one of the cars spinning in the final sector. That is one of the Sape Motorsport drivers. No, 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 no. As the driver tried to turn around, drove right into the gravel, and I don't think there will be any escape out of that. And the car will become beached. That's Michelle Yandova dropping it in the last sector, unfortunately, as she tried to turn around, not really managing to power slide, and we have safety car out. Unfortunate moment for the young Czech driver. Ethan Isher leading from Oscar Wirtz. Kirill Kutskov making up one spot at the start, getting ahead of Shimo Zhang. And Shimo Zhang, the Jenser Motorsport driver, losing 2 places at the start, courtesy of his lock-up into turn 1. And then all through the opening lap of the race. So it is Andrea Kostic from 6th on the grid, up to 4th. Great start by Kostic. Max Karhan has swapped places with Mira Mikeš. The two Czech countrymen fighting it out together. Marek Micík right behind them in 8th. So that's a Czech trio for you there. Lukas Savu working his way up into the top 10. And Kornelia Olkucka, great start from her as well. She was 14th on the grid. I mentioned that after bad luck yesterday, already making up 4 positions at the start. Halatnik then following in 11th from Michalina Sabaj, so that's Polish trio in 10th, 11th and 12th. Jonathan Corrella, the French driver, following in 13th. And unfortunately, we've lost Michelle Yandova right at the end of the opening lap. This was the unfortunate moment. Normally you'd like to power slide the car, but let's not forget, For many of these drivers, this is actually their first racing weekend in the single-seaters after go-karting careers, and they have to learn absolutely everything and simply build up through the basic skills to make them absolutely automatic. Actually, then don't think about them. This is the proving ground. This is the entry level basically to the single-seater motorsport, and honest rookie mistake yet, but that's what you need to do to learn from sometimes. Michel definitely frustrated, but never mind that. There's one more race to go this weekend, so shake that off. Throw it behind, forget about it, and get ready for the next one. Learn from the mistake, and there will be one more chance today. In the meantime, we're still following the safety car as the stricken car is being taken away from the gravel trap here in the last sector. That's the pit entry. So this is the brand new crop of Formula 4 cars, the Tatus T421, only a couple of years old. Unfortunately, it was born during the COVID days, and therefore back then, with all the supply chain being torn apart by all the logistic issues and COVID measures, the delivery times were often very, very, very long. Well, careful with that. Which means that it took some time for the cars to come into the market once it was designed. And we started this championship, which is actually officially certified by the FIA and granted the official Formula 4 national championship status. Like so many other ones. The Italian, German, Spanish, Arabian, British, Brazilian championships, etc., etc. And the car powered by 1.4 litre Abarth engine, producing round about 180 brake horsepower. And the car itself weighing just under 600 kilos. So slightly overgrown go-kart. But it is a beautifully simple but very functional entry level for these young drivers as they are getting ready for the restart. The safety car cutting the chicane, trying to find the shortest way back to the pits as the track goes green again. And we will be racing here in Hungary. So green flag in the air. Now it is up to Ethan Ischer to choose the tempo. It is up to him to choose that moment where he actually goes full throttle. He's trying to find that moment of surprise, usually through the corner. Sometimes what you do is you just accelerate a little bit, then brake a little bit, and then go get going again to break the toe for the other drivers, and that's what he is doing right now. The Swiss driver restarting the race beautifully, immediately putting a little bit of a gap between himself and Oscar Wirtz, who's coming under pressure from Kirill Kutskov in the first corner. Big lock up for Wirtz, big lock up also for Andrea Kostic. Couple of mistakes at the restart. This is another basic skill that you have to learn. Get your tires and get your brakes ready for the restart, but also not to take too much life out of them. We're racing on the Pirelli tires in this championship from this season. Ethan Isher beautifully executing the restart and already driving away, putting about half a second across the line between himself and Oscar Wirtz, who then made a mistake into turn 1, held the second position but lost a little bit more ground in the process. So just under 15 minutes left on the clock. With the chicane break. There is a fight developing in the back. That would have been Miroslav Mikeš, and now 2 Yenzer cars fighting. That will be 4th. Kostic defending from Zhang. Shimo Zhang dropping at the start just like yesterday, having to make his way back up the order. And into the chicane we go. There they are. And I believe that Kostic still holds on to 4th. Zhang trying another move down the inside. Kostic spotted that in the mirror and left the door open, showing respect, but definitely being a little frustrated about that, because that was a last-minute dive in. Mikeš also wants some of that for himself and puts his car down the inside, which now is becoming the outside. Also Max Karhan trying to get around his opponent somewhere. Zhang overtaking once again. Kostic losing more ground, losing grip, getting wide, and Mikeš coming through as well, and so is Max Karhan. The 2 Czech drivers now clearing Andrija Kostic. And is there a problem for Kostic? It looks like he's dropping, well, not only places but also the pace. Doesn't look great, and Max Karhan immediately jumps also Mikeš in the process. Definitely not waiting for anything. There was a chance, he took it. And Kostic in trouble. But let's keep watching this fight between the 2 Czech drivers. Mikeš trying to respond, but the outside line was the only thing that was left there for him. He tried it anyway. But now he's having to make do with 6th. He's gained 1 place but lost 1 right away. Max Karhan coming through and moving up by 2 spots in the matter of a couple of corners. Oscar Wirtz having a look. Didn't work yesterday. Going to try and come up with something else, and there's a puncture. That's the reason. There's puncture for Andrija Kostic. And that is a terrible bit of luck for the young driver. Unfortunately, ending his chances of a good result today. Currently holding on to 3rd and still staying together with the leading duo. Ethan Isher slightly ahead, having shaken off the pressure from Oscar Wirtz. They only had just under 0.4 of a second between them across the line with 11 minutes left, so we are currently in the second half of the race already. Isher leading just like yesterday. Wirtz trying to come up with something. There's still time, but it is also running out. Shimo Zhang in 4th, from Max Karhan in 5th, Mira Mikeš in 6th. Lukas Savu making further couple of places and climbing up to 7th. From Marek Micik, the car number 77, prepared by Sapa Motorsport. Michalina Sabaj following in 9th, and Kornelia Olkucka in 10th. Really being very clever and opportunistic at the restart. Big fight opening up right ahead of him. And, he's gained 2 positions through that. Took one off the hands of his teammate Andrija Kostic, who ran into trouble with a puncture and then immediately decided to surprise his countryman Miroslav Mikeš and robbed him of that newly gained position. So around the final sector we go. Ooh, and there's another crash. That's car number 24, and that's Shimo Zhang from 4th, dropping it into the barrier. Just quick check with the marshal if he's fine, and safety car is back out on track. Unfortunate moment for Shimo Zhang. Just like yesterday, he lost ground at the start, not so much today, but he was moving back up again. However, that didn't last very long, and Shimo Zhang has dropped it. The young Chinese driver will not score any points today. Let's see what happened. Simply running out of road. Saw the end part of that incident, but I believe that he was on his own in that one. Hopefully not a lot of damage to the car. The nose cone is of course damaged, and the front wing snapped. But that should be an easy fix. So if nothing happened to these suspension arms, then we should be fine. Safety car out on track. And neutralizing the race for the second time already, with 7.5 minutes left. We should still get going and have some racing action by the end, but not too much will be left. So if the drivers still want to do something about their positions, they will not have many opportunities remaining. Ethan Ischer still in the lead. He is also the author of the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:37.5 on lap 7. Oscar Wirtz, 3/10 slower. Still in second. Kirill Kutskov in third. Coming home 4th yesterday. Now he's fighting for a podium finish. Max Garham, having started 7th, has worked his way up to 4th, also close to podium. Miroslav Mikeš in 5th from Luka Savu. Marek Micik in 7th, Michalina Sabaj in 8th, and Kornelia Olkucka, Franciszek Halatnik completing the top 10. Andrija Kostic back in the race, having changed the punctured tyre, and with the safety car, it is bringing him back to the game. Still some points to be had. Jonathan Cororella in 12th. Of course, jumping Shimo Zhang, who is now out of the race. So the Manitou towaway tractor coming for rescue. There it is. Gonna have to pull the car out of the barrier, put it on the straps, take it away behind the barriers. Maybe then we'll be able to restart. It is a packed calendar. I mentioned that starting from this year, we're having 3 races per weekend, and there's red flag being waved. Red flags are out, so we will probably not resume the race. There might even be a slight damage to the barrier, which will then need repairs, and probably not to disturb all the time schedule, because we're only at the start of the weekend. We might not have the race restarted. Well, let's wait for that. We're currently checking the messages from race control. So red flag announced, of course, by the virtue of the flags themselves. And let's wait for the decision on the end of the race, if we can have it restarted or not, because under the safety car, the time is still running, so the 25-minute limit is still being eaten away from. But when we stop the race with the red flags, that timer stops as well, of course. According to race control notes, mechanics should be allowed to come onto the grid to meet the cars, so they're getting ready and they can at least check the tire pressures. They can't do much, but at least that. So far it's track marshals and the team members gathering. Yeah, they are entering the starting grid right now, and they will meet their respective drivers, have a quick chat, have some quick updates. So we will restart the race. It is not going to be ended prematurely. So the race will be resumed behind the safety car. We just have to see when and how quickly. This is the first race of the Sunday's program. And this is the damage to the barrier, so we have to replace at least that one segment that got pierced through. That is going to take a little bit of time. It is only the beginning race of the weekend, so a lot of following races coming up, and usually we only have very short breaks between them, which means if one race gets delayed, there is absolutely no time, let's say no buffer, in order not to affect the following races. So definitely it's going to delay the TCR race, the Clio Cup race, the Swift Cup race, and then maybe the lunch break, the opportunity to bunch everything back together. Well, it is actually bunched together, but make up for the delay, just like yesterday. In the meantime, I just was going to talk you through the calendar for the 2024 season. Following the Eastern European TCR, we're starting the season here at the brand new BalatonPark. Then mid-May, the championship is going to Austria, to the Red Bull Ring. Slovakia Ring then coming up next in June. Then we're going to have a 2-month break before we come back after the usual summer break in the Czech Republic in Most at the beginning of August. Beginning of September, we're going to Brno, and the season will then end in Austria again at the Salzburg Ring, which is coming back to the ESETCup Championship, and it will be a new venue, definitely, for the Central European Formula 4, just like BalatonPark, of course. So we are sat on the grid. Let's examine the situation once again. It's the start of, well, not exactly the start, but it's the tight and twisty section in the last sector. So you drive through the chicane and then the complicated left-handers coming up after that. And that's where Shimo Zhang lost control of his car. The flatbed coming to the scene of the accident as well, simply to pick the car up. But that one is already behind the barrier. It is the barrier that's being worked on. We've got to disassemble that piece of barrier, that section, and replace that one segment with a new one before we can get going again. So Ethan Isher, last year's champion, still holding the first place that he had at the start. The pole sitter not really allowing Oscar Verds into the lead, but Oscar Verds was really trying. He locked up into the first corner, and he's been close, but hasn't really found the answer yet. We'll see if he can get that right in the remaining part of the race. The timer stopped at 5 minutes 7 seconds, and it's going to be a safety car restart, which is also going to take some time before we make our way around that one lap behind the safety car. That will eat definitely about 2.5 minutes from that race itself, which effectively means that we should be able to have 2 more laps of the race. Oscar Verds currently in second. He will not have many opportunities left. Probably the restart itself being the best one. But Ethan Isher played the first one in a very smart way, and he'll be trying to repeat exactly that as well at the second restart. Kirill Kutskov in third, waiting for his chance to climb up the order. Max Karhan on the verge of his first podium finish in fourth. He's also very close to his best result yet. Miroslav Mikeš in fifth. Lukas Savu in sixth. From Marek Mičík, Michalina Sabaj, Kornelia Olkucka and Franciszek Halatnik currently completing the top 10. Behind them Andrija Kostic, Jonathan Corrella, and that's about that. We've already lost Shimo Zhang and Michel Jandova in today's race. So the crashed Jenze car being picked up. It is a very simple single-seater, but following the latest safety standards, as you can see, mandatory halo for head protection already built in. It's a steel frame, unlike in Formula One, where you have a titanium tub surrounding the driver's head. But this is a common practice in all the junior categories, all the way up through Formula 3 and to Formula 2. You've got steel halos on them. It's basically a standard solution that you bolt on the existing chassis through the inserts in the monocoque. Also raised headrest for better side protection, impact structures front and rear. Safety is definitely where we keep improving. But of course, motorsport will always remain dangerous. I mean, no drama today. We simply have to replace a segment. Shimo Zhang, but that accident wasn't very big, so he simply parked the car into the barrier. The only damage actually done, maybe to the confidence and to the racing driver's ego, as we like to say. But that's just important to shake off very quickly and get ready for the next one, as Zhang's car is being towed away from the scene of the crash. You see that the damage isn't very big, basically only the front wing missing. So the nose cone will get replaced and the car will be good to go. Well, of course, you've got to get all of the stones, all of the gravel that he's managed to stick in the car somehow. And sometimes you have to work really hard to find all of the stones that find their way into the chassis. So definitely something to do now for the ENZA mechanics. They will not be very happy about that, but this is simply motorsport. This happens. So, 5 minutes to the restart. Message from the race control. That means that the barrier repairs are pretty much done now, and all the machinery leaving the spot as well. So we'll get ready. The drivers have had quick recaps with their team engineers. The cars quickly checked, but nothing big allowed. No big work allowed on the cars. Of course, no changing tires at this level. It's not even something that you'll see in the race, like tire changing, refueling. Absolutely nothing like that. It's a very simple sprint from lights to flag. And the race will resume at 10:20 local time. That's pretty much where the TCR was supposed to be already starting. The delays, of course, taking time. You might be wondering why we don't start sooner, why we just don't get going, but there is a clear procedure laid out by the FIA that you need to follow, because certain steps simply need to be carried out. Once you're sure that the barrier is really fixed, you can give the notice and well, give the information, and then the restart procedure must be followed. So there's 5-minute warning, which is currently already down to 3 minutes. But if you're starting with the restart, you basically give a 5-minute warning for everyone, because you've got people on the grid and they're getting everything ready. And then at 3-minute signal, usually for the classic starting procedure, everyone has to leave, and only the mechanics remaining there, one per car. And then with 1 minute left, it only has to be the cars left on the grid. So we're going to get that warning very soon, and the drivers will then begin another lap. It's not going to be any further formation lap. It will already be a lap that will count towards the race distance itself. So the time will start ticking once again. 5 minutes 7 seconds. That's what's left on the clock currently. And we shall restart in about a minute and a bit. Oscar Wirtz. Concentrating. Getting ready. And one last wish of luck and good fortunes from the team, as he will be now left to it on the grid. So all of the members leaving at the 1 minute mark. And the cars will get going very soon. So the flag is now turning from red to yellow. 15-second board also being held and showed to the drivers. And when those are up and the green light goes on, the timer gets restarted. So the time is now ticking again as we are setting off behind the safety car. We'll do one lap behind it. It's 4.1 kilometers. It's one of the shortest tracks on the calendar, fortunately, so it shouldn't take too much of time, and then the race will get restarted once again. And as I mentioned, by my calculations, we should only have 2 laps left in this race. So that's the official restarting procedure, and now it's of course down to the drivers to get the cars ready, because you saw at the restart the last time out quite a lot of them actually locking up into the first corner, and this is what they need to learn to work on. If Kimi Räikkönen tells you leave me alone, I know what I'm doing on the Formula 1 level, with his experience back then, I would believe that he'd done it a million times prior to that. But for these drivers, for many of them, it is only still first couple of situations that they've had in their lives. So they have to put the temperature into the tires, but not just overheat the surface. That's not what you want to do. You basically want to weave around, sort of zigzag along the straights as they are doing, and then accelerate and brake, because you don't want to overheat the surface. You basically want to get it through the brakes themselves and actually build the heat from the inside and heat the tires through so that they offer you maximum grip. Of course, they will have been worn out by this stage as well, so you must be careful not to lock up. Otherwise, you're just damaging the surface of the tyre, and that will then cost you in the remainder of the race. So green flag, so it is now again up to Ethan Isher to restart the race. He's driving very slowly, waiting for that moment. This is the corner where he restarted the last time, and he does exactly the same thing, and again putting gap between himself and Oscar Wirtz. Great restart by Ethan Isher once again, and Oscar Wirtz once again coming under pressure from Kirill Kutzkov. Kutzkov seemingly being even closer than last time out, but still having to go around the outside. Karhan defending from Mikesh into the first corner. Then Marek Micik, is he moving up the order in front of Lukas Savu? No, he is not. Mikesh trying to find his way, but outside is the only thing that's left for him. And look at the gap that Isher has managed to pull already. That's more than 1 second. Great work by the Swiss driver, who's running away with it. And this is very important. And now Max Karhan under huge pressure from Miroslav Mikesh. Mikesh tried that, but again had to do it round the outside. So Karhan defending great, but unfortunately through that desired third place and a podium, disappearing into the distance currently. But still, there is some time left. Isher leading from Wirtz and Kutzkov. Max Karhan in fourth from Mikesh and Savu. Behind them, It is Marek Micik. And round the final sector, back onto the start and finish straight, onto the last lap of the race. With 40 seconds left on the clock, this is the final one, with Isher leading by more than 1 second. So very, very important work for him at the restart, which is now giving him the decisive advantage. Oscar Wirtz still trying to do something about that, accelerating hard from that section, becoming a little bit wide out of the second hairpin, and he seems to be closer, he seems to have the pace, but does he have time? I doubt that very much. Ooh, but Isher coming a little wide out of the fifth corner, so it is still not done. Still, we have to race to the line. That's where the race ends, not now. The time is up, but there are still a couple of corners left, and Ethan Isher doing everything he needs to secure second victory of the weekend and of the season. Only the back straight left and the tight and twisty last sector. There is pretty much no further overtaken opportunity if you're not close enough. So hats off to Ethan Isher. Under huge pressure yesterday, under huge pressure today, but definitely dominated the restart. And Ethan Isher has done it again. It is 2 out of 2 as Ethan Isher scores another victory in the Central European Formula 4 here at the BalatonPark. And keeping currently the 100% success rate. Oscar Wirtz coming home second, just like yesterday. But Kirill Kutzkov will enjoy his first podium of the season this time out. Yesterday it was the Chinese driver Shimo Zhang on the podium. Today it will be Kirill Kutzkov enjoying the celebration. Max Karhan coming home in fourth. Great race from him as well, having started 7th, made up 3 places, and used pretty much all the opportunities that the race offered to him. Miroslav Mikeš in 5th, good result for the Czech driver as well. Lukas Savu in 6th, having started towards the back of the top 10. Marek Micik in 7th from Michalina Sabai, coming home 8th. Great race for the Polish girl as well. Andrea Kostic unfortunately dropped to the 9th, but having visited the pits to change the punctured tyre, 9th is not that terrible if you look at it from that perspective, but definitely a lot less than the Serbian was hoping for in today's race, as he started from the second row. Oh, sorry, third row of the grid. Franciszek Halatnik completing the top 10, confirmed in the graphics, with Cornelia Olkucka and Jonathan Corrella following them. And with that will be all for today's second Formula 4 race, the third one coming up. But after this race, TCR race number 2, and we'll meet there in just a couple of minutes.